section. So again, this week's session is learning about various question and answer. So it's open mic, as you would say. And we want to know whatever questions or processes people want to see. And the whole point of the training is then to understand the basics for each one of the tools. The goals of the Clearinghouse exercise are showing how data is agnostic. Data should be able to flow freely between different organizations and different tools and technology. So instead of talking about common operational picture, we're talking about common operational data. And what we're doing for the exercise is demonstrating how we're just picking a few representative types of technologies. We're certainly not the only ones, but we're taking a few representative technologies, and we're going to show how you can enter information with those technologies and view it and work with it in any other connected application. So the ones that we're working with are ArcGIS Online. We have an ArcGIS Online XchangeCore connector that you can use to upload data to XchangeCore. You can view information on Google Earth. So if you don't have any GIS capability but you want to see what's going on, you can use that. We have our Clearinghouse SpotOnResponse tool that you can use to provide information from the field and see information that other people are providing. We also have our Clearinghouse field tool, and then also if you have WebEOC, you can use a board, XchangeCore board that you can add to your WebEOC to view viewing information. So it's got lots of opportunities, but we're going to try and keep the directions very simple. So Jim, I'll let you take it away.
Yep, and what I'm going to show you right here at this moment is a blank screen. Cute little Google thing going on there. Everybody has said, okay, start from the beginning. So that's what we want to do right here. Tell me what you would like to know. And nothing here but a couple of bookmarks that I will share with you. And let's just roll. So who's got the first question?
Hey Jim, this is Phil Balin. Can you show the group how to select from one data set, selection, and then take that selected multiple points that you've selected and share it with other people? The concept of having, your own ArcGIS Online map, and then you have another map that's the wrapper of the XchangeCore, and you kind of need to use both of them to add a new data set in, as I understood from our previous discussion.
All right, that's a good one to start with. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start out with the map. And for that, I'm going to go into my organization, ArcGIS Online. So you're going to be doing this, and it's going to say Phil's maps.arcgis online or the public ArcGIS Online maps. One of the places that you store maps is going to be in your My Content. And here is a listing of the My Content. Over here I've got AGOL Training as one of my folders, so I'm going to go over to that. And I have a Clearinghouse XchangeCore AGOL Training map. So this is a web map, and this is where my data is going to be. And I am going to take some of my information and put it out to XchangeCore. So on this one, we've got some California schools, some of the XchangeCore things, some dams. Just click on that so you can see some schools, a lot of schools. There, I didn't draw completely because there are a lot of schools. Okay, this is a web map, and it's distinguished by something right up here at the top. And that's the web map ID. That tells me how to get back to this map. So first step is I got this map, I configured it, we got some dams, we got some schools, and I know the buried computer name in the map, which is highlighted there in blue. So now I say I want to connect this map to XchangeCore. Well, to do that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to have this web map. That's my secret, so I'm currently doing a Control-C to copy that. Coming over here to another tab, and what I'm going to get is the XchangeCore connector for ArcGIS Online. Now I have that bookmarked up here, and it consists of two parts. Over here on the left-hand side is the link that gets you to the program. You go off to ArcGIS, SpotOnResponse, Viewer, all that stuff. Over on the right-hand side, this is a web map. And if you look at the current user's guide, right in the middle of that phrase, it says replace this. Because whatever's in the user's guide is somebody else's map. You want to replace it with your map. So I'm now going to highlight that and do a Control-V to place that, and this now is going to connect to that map that we just saw. This, look at the last 46 ED, is the 46 ED over here. So I now have this, and what I'm going to do is, at this point, I'm now going to press return, and it's going to go off using the first part and find the XchangeCore connector, second part to get me to the map. But, just like we saw on the first side, in order to get to the map, I've got to tell it who I am and tell them I'm legitimate. So that's me. That's my username and password. And what I now have are that same set of dams of concern that we saw earlier. I come up under here. I've got layers, and those are the same. Turn those guys. Oh, we'll leave them on. Turn those off. Sorry. Same list of layers that you have over here, schools and XchangeCore incidents and people like that. Over here, I've got layers, schools, and XchangeCore incidents. But what we've done is wrap around that map, same map, but we've now wrapped around it this frame that is the XchangeCore connector. So we now have a relationship. We've got the web map that I did all my work on. I've got the XchangeCore connector now looking at all of that information. And just to illustrate, if I click the schools, you get the schools. So now that's what we had before. Exact same maps in two different sides. So what I want to do now is make that connection. So up here in the right-hand corner, I've got this little red arrow thing that is really tiny, says XchangeCore there. That's the connector in the blue box. If I click on that, I'm now activating the program that has wrapped around that map. And the first thing I want to do is tell it which XchangeCore I'm looking at. This again is in the user's guide. All you have to do is paste it in. Yes, colon, // yes, that. That's the name of the XchangeCore that I'm connecting to. I'm going to fetch. When I fetch, it's going to ask me for a username and password. Not going to let you into the data unless you are authenticated. This allows me to get in, and I click on that, and it's now going off. And here on the left-hand side are all of these incidents, items of interest, that correspond to everything that's currently in XchangeCore. So, you've now asked the question, how do I associate some of this data with something on XchangeCore that allows me to then tell everybody else, hey, here's some of my data, you can have it. Well, if you recall, what we do is associate information with incidents. So there's a fallen tree blocking the road. We see the blue X. Actually, I'm going to turn that layer off because we have our XchangeCore incidents up there. And I'm going to see my blue X's there, wherever that went. All right. So what I'm trying to do here is associate some of this data with one of these incidents. We decided that that's one way you can do it. If I have this particular thing over here, which is a wastewater treatment plant, and I want to associate it with this fallen tree blocking the road, I can do that. Or this set of schools, I can do that. But what we created last time was this item over here, GIS Capstone 2015, which becomes the place that you can stick GIS stuff. If it's not specifically associated with an incident, stick it over here. Now, all of you need to be working together saying, gee, I don't want it all there. I would like everything that's related to civilian stuff on one thing called civilian capstone, the other one on military capstone maybe, or I want to have things that are models. That's something that this group has to come up with some terminology on to decide where you want to put things. But at this point, let's... Yep, go ahead.
All those hundreds scores of points that are on the map. And in a disaster, each person, each organization is going to have their own specific focus and responsibility. So, for instance, if you are, county PA, there's all those points on the map. A lot of those don't necessarily relate to what you're doing. So you're just going to want to take that subset of information that's relative to you, and what's relative to you may not be relevant to everybody else. So that's the whole point of doing this, is to take these large amounts of data and to be able to orchestrate it into meaningful content that's useful for other people, so they can see, well, in terms of EPA or public or environmental impact, these are the things that are the most important. You're kind of starting a way of summarizing it for other people who don't have their level of expertise. So that's the value of what we're trying to do.
Very well said, Anne. And let me clean this up a little bit here. Let's get some... Oh. That's where I want to be. Okay, so how do we relate some of these things? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I need to select them. So I've got this feature select here, and that feature select gives me a list of available layers of information. I've got dams, I've got some incidents, I've got California schools. Keeping it simple here. You've seen them in past, we've had lots of them. And let's work with these dams, which says, okay, we got a few of those that are floating around here, and those are these greenish things there. And if I want to associate one, I pick a single. I come up and click on one, and you'll see that it turns blue and gives me turns yellow and gives me some information about it. If I want to select some multiple ones, I click on multiple. I can come in here, do a great big box, say every dam in Northern California, and what you see is we got these 4 that we found over here. Or the other choice is a buffer. And a buffer says, okay, I don't want to just have that area. I want to draw a line that I think might be the fault line, and I'm going to make it 50 miles, just so I'm sure we get some here. I'm going to do a line, and that line is going to start down here and go up here and maybe go over here. And we got a buffer around that line of 50 miles in either direction, and we find that we've got these different dams there. So however you find the dams, that's up to you. What you're trying to associate them with, over here on the left-hand side, it's an incident or it's something like the GIS Capstone. What we now have is these have been identified for us. And what I'm going to do is come over here and features. These are features that I'm going to move to XchangeCore. So I'm going to click on features, and what I get is some mapping information up here. The thing I'm most going to be concerned about is this title, and I'm going to say April 21 Dams of Concern. And buried under here is the extracting of the object IDs for all these different points and their preparation into a JSON statement that gets pushed out to XchangeCore, that then can be interpreted by ArcGIS Online for somebody else to look at that information. So we see up here, it's been successfully added to XchangeCore, and I'm going to say OK. So I have now done my part of pushing the information out. Now, how do I know it went out? Well, there are a couple of different ways that we're going to do that, and I'm going to click this Clear All so that we've got a nice clean tool there. I'm going to fetch again because I want to bring in the latest information. So I fetched this. I want to highlight Capstone or whatever that incident is that we have done before. And now I'm coming over here to this Content button, little arrow Content. Remember up here, we looked at, wherever that was, we looked at My Content. Well, this is saying go to the content. So if I click on that, what I get is a list of all the layers of data that are associated with this item over here that's in XchangeCore. Some from last week, but this one down here is the one we want to focus on, April 21st, Dams of Concern. Now, I did that myself. Pretend I'm not Jim anymore. I'm now whoever. I'm now Frank. Frank's sitting there saying, gee, I wonder what's in the GIS Capstone item. I've been hearing that people are passing data around. Wonder where they're putting it. Well, I'm going to fetch over here in Frank's map. I'm going to click on my capstone and say, gee, what else has anybody put in? I'm going to click on content and I'm going to say, holy cow, there's a April 21st Dams of Concern. I happen to be concerned about dams. I want to get that information. So now again, I'm Frank, brand new web map, and I click on that and say submit to map context. Submit map context to my map content. It says it's been successfully submitted. I'm going to say OK. Now again, I'm Frank. So I've used my XchangeCore connector now to bring the information in. Where I'm going to bring it in, happens to be the same web map here, but pretend it's a different one. It's Frank's web map. And what I want to do is bring it in by taking a look at my content, Frank's content. So we're taking a look at Frank's content. And the first thing we're going to see over here, we go back to the main directory, and I click on Modified to refresh this thing. I have April 21st right over here. I've got a feature layer. It's Dams, Incident, Dams of Concern. That's what just came in from somewhere else. Jim's Dams of Concern, and I'm now Frank, and I'm now able to take these. What I want to do is now show them. So I'm going to add this layer to a new map. I'm going to open this new map. And what I have are those dams that we saw earlier. If I click on one of them, in this case I find that the pop-up information is not exposed, but if I come back down here to enable pop-up, and I click there, I get the same information that Jim had before on his web map that he took into his ArcGIS Online connector. And ArcGIS Online to XchangeCore connector, and put it into XchangeCore. I, Frank, then took my XchangeCore connector, looked at the same GIS Capstone incident that Jim had put in the data into. I took it out of my content, and I now have created my web map with that data. So it's a two-step process. You put it out, you take it back in. Somebody make nice, good notes on that?
show then how you could add a graphic buffer it represents the fault, and then you use that object, the buffer area, to select the dam, and then the goal was to select dam to people that be interested in them. So to do so, you then push it through XchangeCore to the individual's My Content on their ArcGIS Online account, and they simply add it to a map, or they can add it to an existing map by adding that newly created subset to a map.
That is exactly right. And what we did, because this was feature data, we added it as JSON data. So it can only go into ArcGIS Online. If this had been map server data, we would be able to view it in other applications because it produces a KML. And I'm going to illustrate that by refreshing this. This is a Google Earth now. And
Could you also show how to add the XchangeCore into a Google Earth? Because where you can add external links.
sure.
Okay.
Yep. Let's pull that in here, and I'm going to do, we'll do a brand new one. We'll close that, we'll turn that one off, and going to come into add, and this is going to be called a network link. And the network link, over here we're going to call it Clearinghouse Core, just Clearinghouse XchangeCore. All right, the URL for that, again, is in the user's guide, but I'm going to take this one out, which I had copied before, and it prescribes I'll paste it in here, but it prescribes the same information, if we go over to the beginning, the same thing that you put into ArcGIS Online, CalOAS, Keystone, SpotOnResponse, After that, you are able to go off and fetch. Here, we're having to give it more instructions. We're telling it we want incidents, we're telling it that we want observations, and we're telling it that we want map context, and we want it in a KML format. So if I click on that, down at the bottom, brand new thing being added here. It's the XchangeCore Clearinghouse. When we zoom in, we're going to see some of those circles and dots. And if I click the plus, I've got a list of all those incidents that are corresponding over here that allow me to go in and grab that information in a number of different ways. What I'd like to find is that there. Yep, sure. No, coming in this way, you are not. What we've done is open this up for the exercise. There can be a username and password for the exercise just to make life a little bit easier. We've opened it up. So you don't need credentials for Google Earth. You only need the credentials when you're going to write into XchangeCore. Just pulling it out and using, and this is this same format. This is the one that you would put into ArcGIS Online. And to just take information out of XchangeCore for this exercise, taking it out of XchangeCore and putting it into ArcGIS Online or Google Earth, you do not need credentials. And
One other question showing right there. In the directions for having a XchangeCore connector or XchangeCore key to Google Earth in its basic directions, there's URL. So what you're saying is you also modify to copy that URL from the direction from the XchangeCore website, and then you modify the URL so that you get the other information. Is that correct?
I don't have the directions right in front of me, but you have to go to the right.
The direction is different than the one you're showing.
And okay, and the directions you're looking at are a XchangeCore tech note for doing doing Google Earth, how to view Google Earth or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Sure. That is different because that was not written for the Clearinghouse. That's an XchangeCore document, and so my guess is that somewhere around that URL it says actually you have to use your own XchangeCore or something like that. So,
I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put together, we'll make sure that we have a specific XchangeCore link for the Clearinghouse for Google Earth for the exercise. So you don't have to guess. We'll make sure that we have the right one for you.
Yep, that's a really good point. And basically they're all sitting here. So, and Svetlana, the reason why we have opened up the XchangeCore for this exercise is because you can't get KML or GORSS feeds that are secure into ArcGIS Online. It just won't recognize a username and password from ArcGIS Online for those feeds. So we've had to open it up for that reason. But yes, got it. You may have some documents that have come off of the XchangeCore website that aren't specific to the exercise. So good point, Ann. And I'll send this out to you right afterwards, so you'll have these nice and handy and can distribute them to people.
Great, thanks.
So we have taken out of using that URL, using the add network link, we have added a brand new item over here in Google Earth that has all of the information in the XchangeCore connector. We have over here, where did that go? This Capstone one, and I'm going to click on it, and you're going to see that there are a couple of different things in here, one of them being this map view context. Map view context is where all of the information about GIS is stored. And if I come in here, you're going to see the same things that you saw when you clicked on the little arrow and content in the ArcGIS Online connector. Right down here we have April 21st dams of concern. So what you've got is the URL, which Google Earth is not going to be able to understand. So just by way of illustration, if you need to go out and find this and happen not to have your ArcGIS Online and you want to grab this URL, you can go into a nice free copy of Google Earth and pull that out. The other place it exists, actually, I'll pull this up. Somebody else originate another question if you have one.